welcome back. So this is question 36 from biology section in IMAT 2017 past paper. So I will be answering this question. So it says, which of the following molecules is or directly produced during both glycolysis and pyruvate decarboxylation in a healthy human cell? Okay, so we have these two main cellular respiration steps, which is glycolysis and pyruvate decarboxylation in healthy human cell. So these both occur commonly in eukaryotic organism. And we have three list of these molecules, the products that are produced in either of these two reactions. So we have ATP, carbon dioxide, reduced NAD, which is also called NADH. Okay, so we have to figure it out which of these molecules or products are common in both of these steps and both of these reactions. So these are both separate reactions, which the question mentions glycolysis and pyruvate decarboxylation. So these are uh, two reactions, separate reactions mentioned. So first we have to recall the basic definition for these reactions. So first one is glycolysis. Glycolysis. Okay, so glycolysis, the simplest definition we must know is that glycolysis is basically converting glucose into pyruvate. Okay, so this is a product of the glycolysis. This is the very general equation for the glycolysis. So the main product is pyruvate. Okay, so this reaction is generally anaerobic. So meaning this reaction occurs in the absence of the oxygen. So it's anaerobic, anaerobic respiration. And this reaction occurs in, so this reaction occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell, or you can say cytosol. Cytoplasm or cytosol, you can name it any. So cytosol is more specific. Okay, so in the cytoplasm of the cell, and it's anaerobic respiration, which does not require an oxygen. Okay, now the next one that we have mentioned over here is pyruvate decarboxylation. Okay, pyruvate decarboxylation. Okay, so this reaction is also commonly known as link reaction. So this reaction is also very important step. It's also known as intermediate step in the cellular respiration. So this reaction occurs aerobic, but there's a slight confusion as whether it's aerobic or anaerobic. But I will explain that further in detail as we go next. But first, you must know that this occurs in aerobic respiration, and this reaction occurs in the matrix of mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. Okay, mitochondria. So this is where the reaction takes place, the reaction pyruvate decarboxylation. Okay, so I have to now tell the main product what it is. So basically it converts the pyruvate, which is the main product from the glycolysis. So it converts the product of glycolysis, which is the pyruvate, into this compound which we call as acetyl coenzyme, acetyl CoA or coenzyme. Okay, so this is the main product of this pyruvate decarboxylation, or you can call link reaction. So this is very generalized word equation, but now I'm going to write the full word equation for each of these, which is the balanced word equation. Okay, so for the glycolysis, it's the main reactant is glucose plus 2 NAD plus. Okay, so this is oxidized NAD plus 2 ADP, 2 plus 2 pi. So this will produce 2 pyruvate, which is the main product of this reaction, glycolysis, plus 2 NADH plus 2 ATP plus water and the hydrogen ion, which both of these are the byproducts of this reaction. So we have these three main products, and the main one is the 2 pyruvate. Okay, so this is the full balanced word chemical equation for glycolysis. Now I'm going to write for this pyruvate decarboxylation. Okay, so pyruvate plus is going to use NAD plus, just as the glycolysis does, and plus this COA, a piece of this one compound. Okay, so this will produce acetyl COA plus NADH plus carbon dioxide. So that's why it's this reaction name is decarboxylation, as it produces carbon dioxide as the byproduct. So now we have the main product, acetyl COA. But you have to know one thing, that this is per pyruvate. But if you're like writing this equation per glucose, which normally produces 2 pyruvate, everything doubles. Okay, so if it's per glucose, it will produce 2 acetyl COA, because per glucose produces 2 pyruvate. So this is going to be like 2, 2. Everything doubles over here if you're accounting for per glucose. But if I'm accounting for just one pyruvate, so then it's going to be only one acetyl COA, which is like part of glucose. Okay, so now this is the main products. This is the main chemical equation for both of these reaction, glycolysis and pyruvate. Okay, so now I'm going to add, bridge these two things together so that you can have clear idea of how these reactions are linked together, serving as the most important steps in the cellular respiration. Okay, so now this is combined. Okay, so I'm going to combine the glycolysis with the link reaction, pyruvate decarboxylation. Okay, so this is now glucose. Glucose gives 2 pyruvate. Okay, 2 pyruvate, and 2 pyruvate gives 2 acetyl COA. Okay, so now these two things are connected together, and now the products of this reaction, as I've mentioned, so this produces, the glycolysis produces 2 NAD plus and 2 NADH. Okay, reduced NAD, and it also produces ATP. Okay, so 2 ATPs converting 2 ADP to 2 ATP. Okay, and for the pyruvate reaction, it is 2 NAD plus and 2 NADH. Okay, so this also produces carbon dioxide. Okay, carbon dioxide. So this step is okay, so this part is glycolysis and this part is pyruvate decarboxylation. So glycolysis, this part is glycolysis and this part is pyruvate decarboxylation. Okay, so now I've bridged these two things together so that you can have clear idea of how these reactions are occurring together to sustain our body. Okay, so now from here itself, while writing the balanced chemical equation for both of these reaction, you must be able to identify the common product because the main part of the question is which of the following molecules are directly produced during both glycolysis and pyruvate decarboxylation, meaning which are the main common products. So now we can circle it out easily that we have NADH, NADH over here as well. So we have no other products similar in both reactions. So it's NADH, NADH, reduced NAD. So the only common product is reduced NAD. So the only correct option is option D, which is 3, and reduced NAD. Okay, so that's it. So you must memorize, it's very, very crucial to memorize the word equation for both of these reaction and also many other steps in the cellular respiration. But for this question specifically, you must know from glycolysis and pyruvate decarboxylation. So this and this are the word balance equation. Okay, so this is how we solve this question and it's pretty easy. Okay, so now I got to also explain about how these reactions are actually linked together. So first of all, I'm going to draw a general diagram. Although you don't really need this for this specific question because you know IMAT is very time limited, but for understanding, I'm going to explain this part. Okay, so this is the mitochondria we have over here, which is the powerhouse of the cell. Okay, so and then we have this shape over here. Okay, so this part over here is known as matrix. This outside part is known as the outer membrane, and this part that covers the matrix is inner membrane. And this folds and structures are known as this crystia. Okay, so this is the basic parts about the mitochondria you must know. And now I'm going to zoom in to show like how these reactions, the cellular reactions occurring in this mitochondria. Okay, so we have this part over here, which is the outer membrane, and then this part inner membrane, and this part, the space that we have this inside is matrix. Okay, so now this outside part is the cytosol, or you can call it as cytoplasm of the cell. Okay, so now what I want to really discuss that the glycolysis step occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell. Glycolysis occurs in the cytosol or cytoplasm. Glycolysis over here. Okay, so this step, the products from the glycolysis, which is the pyruvate, enters in the matrix of the mitochondria, which is now entering into reaction, which we call as link reaction, or you can called as pyruvate decarboxylation. And the products of the pyruvate decarboxylation, which is acetyl CoA, is then it's fed into the reaction which we commonly call as Krebs cycle. Krebs cycle. Okay, so in this reaction, the acetyl CoA is used in this Krebs cycle, which produces the important compounds which are reduced coenzymes, which are then used in this reaction, which we call as ETC. And this molecules that are involved in this inner membrane are called ETC, and it's known as oxidative phosphorylation. Okay, so now why do we call link reaction as aerobic respiration? Because although there's no use of oxygen that we can clearly see in this chemical reaction, so this is because, as I also mentioned earlier, that link reaction or or pyruvate decarboxylation, this step is known as intermediate. Okay, intermediate step. And so in this step, the products from glycolysis are used in the link reaction to produce acetyl CoA, which this will be fed into Krebs cycle, and then at the end will be used those reduced coenzymes that are made from the acetyl CoA are used in ETC, which is oxidative phosphorylation. Okay, so this is intermediate because in ETC it uses an oxygen. So we know glycolysis is anaerobic respiration itself. But if there is oxygen present, link reaction then proceeds. Okay, so although this reaction is not directly anaerobic in the sense that it uses oxygen in its reaction, but it's indirect process of oxygen, and that's why it's known as intermediate. Okay, so in the case, like for example, if the situation was that it's completely anaerobic, there's no oxygen present. So after glycolysis, where glucose is converted into two pyruvates, these products are then converted into two lactate. Okay, so two lactate. So this step is glycolysis. So if the situation was in the body like the anaerobic condition like exceeds or like it persists where there's no available oxygen, then the glycolysis proceeds to lactate process. Okay, so lactate fermentation. Okay, so this step is lactate fermentation. Okay, so this produces lactate, and one of the most important reasons as to why it proceeds to lactate fermentation is it produces NAD plus. So since we have two pyruvates, so it's going to be 2 NAD plus using 2 NADH. So this is also known as this step is also known as NAD plus regeneration. Okay, so NAD plus in this step regenerates, which this would be used in the glycolysis again. So these NAD are again used in the glycolysis where NAD plus are again converted into 2 NADH. And so this process keeps on happening as long as there's no oxygen available. But although this is ineffective in producing ATP, which is in this part, but ATP is mainly and majority produced in oxidative phosphorylation, which is this ETC. Okay, so this entire step, the cellular respiration occurs only if the conditions are aerobic, if there's enough oxygen present for this cycle to completely reach to etc. But if the situation persists in anaerobic condition, so this is where the reaction proceeds. So after glycolysis, its product, two pyruvates, are then fed into lactate fermentation process to produce two lactates. Okay, so this is just for the basic and general understanding about the question to get more clear idea about how these reactions are linked together and why the link reaction, which is pyruvate decarboxylation, is in the aerobic condition, although it does not use oxygen directly. Okay, so just knowing the basic chemical equation, the word equation for these two processes is enough to solve this question. So the only correct option is option 3, reduce NAD. Okay, so that's how we solve this question. Thank you guys for watching my video. I hope you find this video helpful. Please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys. Bye.